Round one. Fight.
Heroes never die.
I'm Commander Shepard, and this is my favorite store on the Citadel.
I used to be an adventurer like you. Then I took an arrow in the knee.
Power, sex, power. They both come down to one thing.
Hungry Gamers.
Hello, and welcome everyone to the 315th episode of the Hungry Gamers podcast. We are powered by 8bit.net and those sexy audio-based legends over at Audio-Technica. Go upgrade your audio game today over at audiotechnica.com. I'm your extremely humble host, Brendan White. You can find me just about everywhere at Brendan8bit. And joining me today, my podcast Ride or Die, the hokey pokey to my milkshake. You can find her on them socials at Miss Ali Hart. Miss Ali Hart, how the bloody hell are ya?
Doing good. Happy February already.
God.
It felt like a long January, but we're now in February. So,
it's scary.
It's scary.
Genuinely scary.
Yeah, especially when you start filling up your calendar with stuff already, and then you're just like, you're going by the weeks, and then next thing you know, it's the next month. It's the middle of the year we don't seem to track too much. It's the start and the end where we kind of get into a bit of disbelief of how time functions.
Yeah, it's scary. Like, yeah, it's the 4th of February as we're recording right now, but looking ahead, my February is right off in some good and bad ways, but it's sort of depressing when you look ahead at a calendar and know that whole months are just sort of scrubbed with various commitments.
Yeah.
And you go, oh, well, that's that part of the year gone. Moving on to the next quarter or something. It's good and bad.
Yeah, it's like it's good to do stuff, but then it's also daunting to be like, wow, my life is going to be chock-a-block for a whole month right now. So yeah, that's all age.
Yeah. Yeah, first world problems, definitely. Like, woe is us to be busy and have commitments and things, but at the same time, you know, you gotta keep those social batteries appropriately charged to handle all these things. But other things we've been handling this past week is some games and what we've been up to. And I see you've been working your way through a fantastic game that we gushed about last week. We're talking about Hi-Fi Rush by Tango Gameworks.
Yes.
What's the latest on that one?
I rolled credits on it. I was absolutely obsessed with this game.
Yeah.
I adored it, and every segment just got better and better. And I was so concerned that it was going to feel a bit repetitive, but the game managed to just keep like the hits coming and changing up the play style and the attacks and such. So yeah, it was great, and I just kept on playing and playing, and then I kind of realized I was branching up to the end of the game, and I'm like, oh my goodness, like it's already over, which is pretty, like, I think the game, they say it's roughly between 6 to 8 hours. I think I clocked in at 12, but I'm one of those annoying people that have to explore every nook and cranny, and the problem is this game rewards that, so it even makes me do it more. So I think I finished this game up on like 12 hours, I think. But I'm honestly thinking about jumping back and seeing to look at more collectibles, because there is some endgame content, some things that kind of open up. So yeah, I can't say enough great things about this game. I think it's going to be probably a contender for me as a game of the year for this year already. So
I'm not surprised by that statement, because yeah, the second it was announced, a lot of the internet just immediately thought this is an alley game straight off the bat.
Yeah.
And it sounds like the internet was correct in this regard, where it is very much an alley game.
Completely valid, yeah. And I'm happy to report back that, yeah, everyone hit the nail on the head, and even the studio, unbeknownst to them, did extremely well on making an alley-ass game. Even the music selection in the game has been great. I love how different some of the tracks are that they bring in from real world artists, because they have in-game music that they produce that is still pretty damn good, but then they have tracks from other artists out there. And there's one scene where they bring in Prodigy, and it is brilliant. I actually want to go back and play that fight again, because I just loved everything about it. So yeah, so that's Hi-Fi Rush, 10 out of 10 game for me. Like I said, possible game of the year contender for me already. And I'm probably going to just jump back into it. I loved it that much.
And the internet and the world loved it too. Like, everyone is still
Yeah.
gushing about this game, and a lot of people are talking about it in a very positive and glowing fashion. I'm only still, like, I haven't touched it since we talked about it last week. I've been working my way through another game this week as well. But yeah, it's phenomenal. It's great. It's potentially, like, I know we're only in February, like we were just talking about, you know, we're at the early part of the year. But for a little stealth drop like this to come out of nowhere and get the reception it has and just play the way it does is very exciting for the year ahead. Like, we've got one of the best games of the year dropping, you know, at the tail end of January with no
hype.
media beat up, no
Yeah.
hype, just boom, here it is. And the world went, thank you, Tango. Thank you, Xbox. This is awesome. And yeah, it's reviewing great, plays great, looks great, sounds great, checks every box.
Yeah.
And it is just so unique in all the right ways.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I think it's really kind of brought attention to how games can be marketed, released, and still succeed. I would actually like to know more about this release and know more of the decisions behind the scenes, because normally it's a horror game kind of franchise, and then to take this absolute turn and do this bright, beautiful, colorful game that has beat mechanics, and it's just brilliant that they took this chance and it just absolutely paid off for them. So yeah, looking forward to more. I really want to see more of this.
Yeah, it really feels great. It reminds me similar story, you know, you think of Guerrilla Games that were just Killzone, then they take a chance with something like Horizon. And now I've got Tango doing the same, where we had Ghostwire Tokyo, we had The Evil Within 1 and 2, as some of their most recent games, where it was a very similar formula they were following, and then they just completely flipped the script, and to much critical acclaim. So I love it, and I'm looking forward to working my way through this game a little bit more in the coming weeks. But something that I wasn't, I guess, particularly excited about for a good long while is the game that I'm going to be talking about, just because the writing and the trailers and the announcements, and the more we saw of this game, I think the less I personally was hyped for it. And what I'm talking about is Luminous Productions' Forspoken. Obviously, I've been playing it on the PlayStation 5 with thanks to Bandai Namco / Square Enix for slinging me a key for that one. And, you know, anyone that's been on the internet the last week or so would probably see a lot more negative compared to positive in regards to Forspoken. Some of it, I feel, is justified. The writing can be a little ho-hum, to say the least. Tonally, there is some moments where I did chuckle and was engrossed in this massive, expansive narrative, because there is a lot of storytelling here on display in Forspoken. And the characters are pretty great, but there's just so much exposition in this game, which kind of irks me, where you think of something like an Elden Ring, where the storytelling, it's very subdued, and you explore the world and you unearth things, and it sort of unfolds in front of your eyes. Where in this game, where you're playing Frey, who is this runaway orphan from New York City that gets transported into this fantasy world, etc., etc. She's roaming around this world with her companion named Cuff, you know, this sentient magical Cuff on her wrist. And Cuff just says and explains everything for you in this world all the time. There's no I'm going into this new zone, and you open it up and you're like, whoa, you have this moment personally. It's just Cuff's go here to do this is why, and this is what you're going to get. It's very much connect the dots for the entire story, which is kind of okay if you don't want to pay full attention, because you're just getting it spoon-fed to you. But when you want to have a world that you explore and you sort of unpack at your pace, and you get these big moments, you don't really get them because they're sort of spoiled for you, because it's just here, grab my hand, I'm going to drag you everywhere, I'm going to tell you everything as I'm dragging you there, and you're just this is fine. There's a big story here, because you are running around this fantasy world named Athia. It's, you know, it's the isekai trope. If anyone from anime world is looking for how you compare this game, it's normal person transported into a fantasy world. There's magic and abilities and etc., etc. And the overall story is fine. Frey, as a character, she's okay. She can be a little bit annoying. She can be a bit snippy, a bit annoying, a bit sassy. But I think it's just the writing. They had a pretty pretty large writing team. Amy Henning's part of it. Gary Whitta was part of the initial sort of decisions with framing out this world. But from what I understand, they weren't involved in the finer details of the scripting. So they helped put this world together for Forspoken, and then went off and did their own things. Then whoever came in to handle the writing and the actual scripting and dialogue was someone altogether different. So the writing sort of clashes in that way, where there's this big grand fantasy world, but then some of the interactions that happen, and there are many. There is so many cutscenes. There is so many fixed interactions that you can't escape from, and they're very pretty and you can learn some cool things, but it's all static camera. You can't move around the scene as you're interacting. Like you think of like a God of War, where for the most part you can be moving in and around and living through these scenes, where this is not, you're fixed, you're just watching, you're hearing this play out, then you can go like, sit down, pay attention, we'll give you this story, this exposition, away you go. But like, apart from that, from the gameplay loop, the parkour and the movement, super slick. It is really, really fun to be flinging around here using your various abilities. The combat feels pretty fun and unique in a lot of ways. Fighting some of the enemies in this very large world, like the world of Aethia itself is massive. Like there's a ton to explore, and like you said, where you like getting off the beaten track and uncovering things, there's a lot of things that you can go check in various parts of this world and find certain items and a little bit of other storytelling that hasn't been force-fed to you in that regard. But I enjoy it. I enjoy the game overall. Like the reviews have been very lukewarm, you could say. Metacritic at 66 out of 100. And that feels pretty fair. 6.5 to 7, which isn't bad. Like, I love that there's just this black mark on a 6.5 to 7 these days in things. Like, if a lot of us at school got a 65 or a 70 out of 100 on a test, a lot of us would be like,
pretty happy.
Christ. Yeah, would be happy. But nowadays, unless it's a 9 or a 10, everyone's like, this is shit, you're the worst. So this game, because it's been so pumped up in the media, like it's been on everybody's radars since it was announced, because there's trailers, there's dev diaries, there's this, that, the other, every other week leading up to the release. And I think it sort of crumbled under the weight of its own hype, where because we saw so much of it, we had such a high expectation. The game come out and it was fine, but it feels less fine because the media, I think, are expecting greatness.
I mean, even into the lead up of this game, we started seeing like advertising material and little hype trailers that were starting to get released, and there was that infamous one that showed dialogue from the game that got made fun of like badly. So even at that point, they might have had like some kind of idea that they were possibly going to lose marks if that was the overall tone that they were setting for the game. And it seems like it was. Like, I haven't played it. I've only witnessed the clips online that people have cared to share, so I don't think I can make a solid opinion on a game based on just the clips that people are willing to share, obviously for the shock value. But I mean, this game, it looked beautiful. It looked like it was going to be a like interesting concept. It looked like it had a story to tell, but through the demos that I watched, for me, the game was just too hectic. It had a horrible looking interface for the user. I don't know how anyone figured out what they were meant to be doing, especially in the demo. And yeah, there was just really nothing overall appealing about the game that made it stand out and a must play for me. So but I guess it just seems like most outlets had the same kind of idea on how they felt the game played, was executed, and kind of led to that score.
Yeah, I think the score is justified. I think the biggest thing with it is just the clash in tone. Like Frey, she's a bit foul-mouthed. She curses, and she's, like I said, she's a bit sassy, and she's got some very strong opinions on things. But hearing that contrast to the people in this land of Aethia, where most of them are, well-spoken British diplomats, you could almost say, it's very highbrow, and then you get the lowbrow Frey, and it sort of clashes in a way, and obviously it's showing that, yes, she's from New York, she's an orphan, she's lived a rough life up until this day in current day, and now we're shifted, centuries back into fantasy land and everything else. So you do see that contrast, but the dialogue that comes out of that sometimes is pretty cringe. Even during the, there's some serious moments in the game where the stakes are getting raised or there's high drama, and they still weave in unnecessary jokes or tone. You're just like, oh, this sort of doesn't land the way it's meant to. I'm not going to say it's woke, but it's trying to be very internet elite speak and stuff, and just
a little edgy.
Yeah, edgy is probably a better word to throw in there. But yeah, it's fine. It's fine. The combat's great. I like the magic-based abilities that Frey has at her disposal, whether it be elemental attacks, defense, and the synergies you get from your sentient cuff friend doing their thing as well. So the combat feels great. But yeah, the world at times does feel a little bit hollow. It's so big and it's vibrant in a lot of ways, but then in other parts it just felt a little lacking to me. The range of monsters you fight, there's some good diversity in the enemies and the creatures and things that you're tackling on your way to try and bring Aethia back to a good stance as you take down these evil matriarchs known as the Tanta. So they're people that have brought this apocalypse together called the Break, and that's corrupted the 4 regions of Aethia. And what you're doing, obviously, is going to try and fight these 4 people, these 4 Tantans, and bring peace back to Aethia. And that's sort of the scope of the game, to then get Frey back to New York to keep living her best life in modern day NYC. But overall, I think it's fine. The movement's pretty fluid. The parkour weaving in with the magic and the scalability when you are moving is super fun. So you can sort of move around and evade, and it looks really stylized. It's super slick, runs at a juicy frame rate, and the graphics look cool. Enemies are okay. The characters, for the most part, yeah, all right. But the dialogue and just the tone is the biggest thing that's jarring. The soundtrack is great. Bear McCreary and Gary Shireman put the score together for this, and it just bangs in certain parts. There is some great transitions from high points to low points. But the game's all right. It's definitely probably a 7 or a 70 out of 100 if we're going Metacritic rules. For me, I think it's enjoyable. Is it the best? No way. But I don't regret my time playing it.
Oh, okay.
I've had fun playing it.
All right.
I've had fun playing it at times. There is times where I'm rolling my eyes, and it's the way that these interactions are playing out in the game. Certainly, I don't think they're intentional there to make you have an eye roll. But there's times I'm just like, wow, who thought this was going to be a good thing to put into this conversation here? But yeah, the combat's great. The world's fun. There's a lot of potential with the story and the characters there, but there is some pacing issues, and the game did feel a little hollow and incomplete in patches. But overall, Forspoken, it's enjoyable. It's fine. But in stark contrast to Hi-Fi that we were just talking about, which is top to bottom polish, really fun, really complete, this game just has a few little voids that I don't know if it was because they ran out of time or just committed to a date, or if they just missed this and it was an oversight when they were building this game out. But yeah, 66 out of 100 on Metacritic based off the critic scores. I'm at about a 70 personally. It's fine. Forspoken, it's not the best game I've played by any stretch, but it's also not the worst game I've played by any stretch. So if you love isekai, or you love just high fantasy and magic and a bit of sassiness to your protagonist, maybe give it a look. But if not, don't.
just don't. I think the bottom line, and I think it's a very important detail, especially when it comes to reviewing and such, and other people getting opinions, is that what you said, which is, I had fun with my time with it. Yes, there were flaws. Yes, there were issues, but I had fun with my time. And I think that's a very important bit of information there, because we had the same experience with Cyberpunk. We acknowledged that Cyberpunk definitely was broken. There were bugs and there were issues within the game that we both experienced. And yet for us, we still really enjoyed the game. So I definitely think that's always a very important factor to throw in there, especially when with reviewing, because sometimes it's just all the negatives and nothing kind of behind the weight. So it's good to know that at least you had fun with the game.
Exactly. Yeah. It's been a good couple of weeks. I've worked through Dead Space, which is fantastic. Been working through Hi-Fi, which is fantastic.
Brilliant, yeah.
And then Forspoken, which is fine. But overall, I've been having good times across all 3 of these very unique games. And if you want to sort of compare it to, when you go watch a dumb movie at this, a popcorn movie at the cinemas, where it's the movie's not that great, but I'm having a good time regardless. There is some good moments. That's what Forspoken is. It's a good popcorn film game.
Yeah.
If that's a phrase
It
I
makes
can
sense.
coin right now.
It makes sense.
All right. Quick bit of housekeeping. Obviously, if you want to support us monetarily, you can do so over at ko-fi.com/we're8bits. Starting from the low price of $1 per month, you can get exclusive access to podcast content and giveaways there. Check out all our content over at videogamesandculture.com. That is the place for all things 8-bit. You want to get some merch? Shop 8bit.net. Get us on your person today. T-shirts, hats, hoodies, socks, jocks, you name it. It is all there at shop8bit.net. Be sure to join our Discord with the direct link in the show notes for this podcast there to jump in, involve in some banter, and also be able to put your next predicted score in for our pizza prediction for February, which will be announced in the coming days as well, to win some pie on us. But Miss Hart, let's jump into this.
This week's news headlines. Presented by Audio-Technica.
All right, a couple of quick hitters. Very, very dire news. A lot of other games getting shut down, which seems to be the theme of 2023 already. Live service games, dead. So a mass amount of game shutdowns. Crossfire X is the latest live service game to announce shutdowns this past week, as well as Rumbleverse and Knockout City. We also got Crime Site and Apex Legends Mobile, which are all confirmed now to be going offline throughout 2023. So we've had a half a dozen games or so already for January be marked for death. Those live servers are going to be put to sleep. Some of them a little bit more heartbreaking than others. I've not played a lick of Crossfire X. Obviously, that game was announced with much hype at E3 or Xbox Bethesda Showcase a couple of years ago. I don't know anyone in our system that's played it.
No, me either.
Rumbleverse and Knockout City. I played Rumbleverse for a hot minute with Benny. It wasn't for me. It's a shame because I love wrestling. I love battle royales, and it weaves those things together greatly, but the game just felt mid to me. Never played a second of Knockout City. Didn't play Crime Site. And Apex Legends Mobile apparently plays great, but didn't play a minute of that either.
Oh. I remember seeing Rumbleverse and Knockout City. These two games are bright, colorful universes with a very simple kind of game idea. Knockout City is essentially it was like dodgeball, right? It was like two teams against each other, and you just that was my idea of what it was. But then
that was the concept, yeah.
Yeah, and then you had Rumbleverse, which was like a battle royale wrestling move kind of game. Every time I kind of watch these kind of games come up, I'm like, oh, these are definitely not for me. And personally, I didn't see the longevity in these titles. I didn't know how these games were going to keep it fresh and relevant and maintaining a user base. And although at times of release, I think of both titles, we did see a strong player base upon release, but it definitely dwindled very quickly soon after, which I think we are seeing still with a lot of games where you get that initial hype and push where maybe people are just excited for a new title to be kind of thrown in the mix, especially in a multiplayer space. But then as fast as it comes, it just absolutely crashes and loses a player base. And they're heavily dependent, obviously, in-game purchases as well to keep and maintaining the online base and keep it relevant on the servers, and then keep it fresh, and then to develop new stages, characters, in-game merch or skins or whatever it is that these titles need. So yeah, I'm not surprised, especially I think we're gonna probably see more and more as probably game developers and studios are going to start seeing just not how sustainable these titles are.
Yeah, obviously we've had a raft of firings already in 2023, and then you see this ripple effect now where some of these studios that were hosting these live games off the back of the staff getting cut, those games cannot be supported because the staff no longer exists there, hence the games getting switched off too. And it's crazy that Rumbleverse and Knockout City, they both only released last year.
Yeah.
So they're not that old. Truth be told, I don't even know what Crime Site is. I've never even heard of it until the news piece here. So I don't really know where that weaves into the broader ecosystem. But that also goes to show that market is very heavily saturated, right? And like you said, you get that initial influx of people wanting to jump on and be early adopters and try and appreciate this new IP. But then the new shiny thing comes out, so they jump onto that thing, jump onto the next, so on and so forth, because you always want to try and find that new. You want to get that hotness and be in there where the sort of fun and the people are at. So it's just a very, very transactional based world, that games as service or that live game piece is, where apart from like a Destiny, not many of these other games have got a player base that just do not move. Once they're in and they're committed. Where a Rumbleverse, I jumped on, had a taste, didn't like what I was tasting, I'm out. So I'm moving on to the next thing. Like, you don't get people to go, you know what, Rumbleverse is my identity. I'm sticking by it forever. We're going to be here till the day it dies. And sadly, that day is announced from this week. So, yeah.
Yeah, so it seems like Crime Site was kind of different in the sense that it was a online crime-solving game done by Konami. But it seems like that one's just had the plug pulled on it, and it was also initially released April last year. So
that's 3 of that listing, all dropped in 2022, all marked for death a year later.
So it seems like maybe studios are just not holding on any longer, or risking the chance of seeing if these games could ever get an uptick, and just cutting them early and avoiding the losses perhaps. But yeah.
It's sad, and we hope everyone that is involved in the development of those games and maintaining those servers and systems are either still just getting shifted to other projects amongst those same developers, or are able to sort of find some work, because that is the rough part about this. There is a lot of people in the background supporting these titles, and now knowing that the lights are going to get turned off on a lot of these titles would be scary and worrisome. So hopefully that all works out well. But yeah, it's a very volatile space of the game world, live games, that's for sure. And we've got 5 or so of them all marked for permanent sleep mode, going active in the next couple of weeks or months, which is sad. Something else, it's not as dramatic as these permanent shutdowns, but Naughty Dog has announced this past week that the PC version of The Last of Us Part 1 will be having a slight delay. Only a couple of weeks though, so it was originally going to be dropping on March the 3rd, but has now been shifted to March the 28th. And they just said, we want to make sure that The Last of Us Part 1 PC debut is in the best shape possible. These additional few weeks will allow us to ensure this version of The Last of Us lives up to your and our standards. So, you know what, Naughty Dog? You do what you got to do. Delays to make things better is never a bad thing. And it's only 25 days later. So you're waiting 3.5 weeks, and then you'll get The Last of Us in all its PC glory. Soon to follow.
I mean, it makes sense that they want to obviously try and get this one out as soon as possible. I know I've seen an uptick of people on my timeline, social media timeline, saying that they've loaded up The Last of Us again, due to obviously the success of the series running at the moment. So I know that I said that if it would get, dulled up and put on PC, that there would be a chance that I would possibly revisit it, but it looks like that's delayed, so maybe I don't have to worry about it so much. You
got to wait a little while longer, and I've seen a lot of mod videos doing the rounds already, where they've chucked Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey in as Joel and Ellie, so you can already play them in an unofficial capacity with various mod packs out there. So if you want to sort of go beat for beat with what's going on in the show and the game, you can do so with the same characters there. But and they've got to wait 25 days.
Yeah,
it'll be fine.
That's not bad.
Something else as far as less fine news, developer Turtle Rock has confirmed it won't be releasing any more new content for its co-op zombie shooter Back 4 Blood, as the studio officially shifts its focus to its next project. Back 4 Blood launched in October of 2021 and has received a total of 3 paid expansions since then. The most recent of these, River of Blood, launched in December, and it is now confirmed to be the last content released for the game. Turtle Rock shared the news on its website, explaining work on its next title is now underway and that the studio doesn't have enough folks to continue working on Back 4 Blood at the same time. Given this, it's time for us to put our heads down, get back in the lab, and get to work on the next big thing. So Back 4 Blood is fun to play. I like that you're weaving in, obviously, the zombie slaughter mechanics with a bit of deck building to give a bit of variety and unpredictability to your playthroughs. The characters were fun and larger than life. Some of the creatures you fight are pretty goddamn terrifying. And rolling out with a squad of 1, 2, or 3 other friends is super fun. But yeah, sadly, the game is not getting any more new content. It is going to be supported now and into the future. They haven't sort of said servers are getting shut down. So you still be able to play this indefinitely, in air quotes, but you're just not getting any more new content coming your way.
I think that's a pretty decent way to kind of go about this this thing, as we were previously talking about with studios having sustainability to keep a game fresh. So at least Turtle Rock is kind of outright saying here, like, we will not be making any new content for the game. We won't be putting our resources towards that. We're going to go work on the next thing, which I just think is a smart decision in the business. Like, I don't think you can make those type of games stay relevant, stay fresh and sustainable for a long time. It's, it's fun. It's, crazy zombie horde mode. But then if they've already got another game in the pipeline, then they should just go for it and get working on that so that it can get released and we can enjoy that one too.
Yeah, I think it's going to be another 4-player based squad shooter, because that is sort of Turtle Rock's MO, which is fine. But where are they going to whisk us to next? Obviously, we had the big sort of 4v1 Monster Hunter style. Remember, where you could play as the monster or the 4 hunters trying to take down the various creature-based archetypes. And now we've got Back 4 Blood with the zombie tropes. I don't think they're going to be leaning into vampires, because Redfall's got that locked down for May. So where are they going next?
Well, we'll find out soon enough.
We will indeed. And something we also found out soon enough, even though we sort of talked at length the last couple of weeks in regards to the day before, we actually got that extended look. I'm still uncertain about this, but I've got some words here from IGN. And open world survival game the day before gave us a 10-minute gameplay footage trailer this past week. The first new look at the game in well over a year, as developer Fantastic finds itself embroiled in a trademark dispute. The new look shows off some exploring, weapon modding, scavenging, and shooting down infected enemies. The day before was originally scheduled to be released in June of 2022, but obviously was delayed until March the 1st, and is now scheduled to drop on November 10th, 2023. While the first delay was due to the game's switch to Unreal Engine 5, it was further pushed back as the developer allegedly failed to trademark its name. However, Fantastic told IGN last month the delay was planned before the trademark dispute actually came to light. Miss Hart, we got a 10-minute slice. It didn't really show us a whole much. I'm still skeptical that this game exists. I still feel that they're taking the piss. Yeah,
like this... It's based on the video that they provided. We did at least see some gameplay, or what we were anticipating to be gameplay, but it's also, and I don't think I am in my right to kind of say this sort of stuff, but to me it kind of looked very simplified. It looked not at it what would be considered maybe it's 100%. I still get the Division vibes, but now I'm getting like PUBG vibes as well, whereas they kind of went into the inventory interface, as well as customizing weapons, which kind of comes and goes with different games. Like Call of Duty is starting to incorporate that as well. But overall, I'm still not being sold on anything on why this game is worth the play, like why I should get into it. And now that it has a delay until November, at least they have the time maybe to explain that a little bit more. But I guess they really felt like they had to show something, because there's people out there that think this game doesn't exist at all.
Yeah, I'm kind of one of them. I got my tinfoil hat on. I think this is all a big scam. Yeah, so this is still the second most wishlisted game on Steam. So everyone is thirsting for the day before. But like you said, for them to obviously pull back a week or so ago saying, yep, the game's not coming out in March. Silly us, we forgot to trademark the game we've been working on for several years. Ha 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 ha. And then there was nothing announced. They didn't sort of say the trailer's still coming, we'll still show you the game. It was just crickets. And then the night before it got announced, it just sort of was littered out on the internet. They're like, oh, they're going to be showing something tomorrow. And then they did. And what they showed was just, it was really underwhelming. Like you said, it was just, it was fine. The UI was, it's all right. The world itself, there's a lot of like just walking around and running around and a whole lot of nothing. Like, you know, it's a big, large, vivid world that they're trying to build out in this game, but it felt very empty. And obviously this is some like, you know, early access alpha footage that they're sort of throwing around, no doubt. But for that to be your first gameplay footage since all this controversy, and that's what you showed, it just felt very, very underwhelming to me.
Yeah.
And fake. I still don't think this is a game.
It was a fake trailer. Yeah. Like I'm not gonna like absolutely poo-poo on it, because it's like there's stuff there, there's groundwork there. I'm assuming we probably saw something more of like do you think it's like this what the state of the game is right now, and that is why they need time, like, or this is like older content that they grabbed and they just threw it together just to give us something? I don't know. It felt
a little desperate to me. Like they're like, oh no, we've lost a lot of the faith of the gaming community because now people are thinking this game doesn't exist. What B-roll have we got there that we can just throw out there to keep us relevant for now? And in doing that though, a lot of people I think are left a little bit more wanting with it. Like, you know what, at least you showed us something, but what you showed us wasn't that great. And if this is a game that was meant to be out in a month, this is what we'd be getting. Because they didn't say that they've delayed it due to needing to build the game out and improve it. They had to delay it due to the trademark dispute.
Well, yeah.
So if this is the alleged finished product, you're like, ooh, yeah, this game ain't gonna last too long.
Yeah.
It doesn't even exist. Or maybe it does, I don't know.
I would laugh if the game just doesn't release. Like, we've had that before where games just never released in the end after a lot of like speculation or issues and such. So who knows, maybe it will just mysteriously get cancelled.
Maybe. Yeah, I'm skeptical. Fantastic. You haven't won me over yet. I don't have any faith that this game is a real thing. Let's see what happens closer to November the 10th. But for now, I just feel this is all a heap of hooey.
Hopefully 2023 isn't the year of cancellations, but it's already been a rough start.
Exactly. And the last piece of news we're going to be ending on is a bit of a rough ending to our news content. This episode's just been all about cancellations and closures and stuff.
What could have been.
Morbid stuff here, but I've just titled this one, EA swings Bloodhound's axe. Electronic Arts is currently in the midst of a slew of cancellations and closures, the latest being a previously unknown project named TFL or Titanfall Legends, a secret single-player game set in the Titanfall and Apex Legends universe. The news was first reported by Bloomberg. This was going to be an indirect follow-up because the Titanfall's last solo outing was in 2016. It initially sold poorly, but subsequently gained a following thanks to its superb single-player shooter campaign. Titanfall 2 is so good. It is so special, and more people need to play that. But jumping back into this news piece, following on, reliable leaker Jeff Grubb has shared additional details saying the project was a Titanfall-feeling single-player campaign that would have been included in Apex Legends rather than being a standalone title, saying he'd heard from sources that the cancelled project was part of a broader push to expand the scope of Apex Legends. And he goes on to say, in 2 weeks from now, Apex Legends is going to get Team Deathmatch. And that was always part of a plan to turn Apex Legends into this platform where you could get all kinds of different shooter experiences from an expanded Apex Legends / Titanfall world. He added that Titanfall Legends, one of the code names given to the cancelled project, was always supposed to slot in as part of that and would be a single-player campaign inside of this platform, in the same way Call of Duty works, where you get Modern Warfare 2, and Warzone is right there as well. According to Grubb, Titanfall Legends would have seen Apex Legends character Rampart uncovering the chassis of Titanfall 2's BT, leading to players in the role of Blisk exploring the game's world with an upgradable BT. Although the campaign reportedly featured familiar Titanfall staples like wall running, Apex Legends would have had a heavy presence with various legends popping up to give players additional powers along the way. The thinking there was that more people have played Apex Legends that have ever heard of Titanfall, Grubb explained. So they were really going to lean into that. Titanfall Legends was not Titanfall 3 because in a lot of people's minds, I think Titanfall 3 was going to be a new standalone game with a single-player campaign and a multiplayer. They could just never do that again after Apex Legends changed the calculus on all of those things, end quote. So, EA, canceling games left, right, and center. Titanfall Legends or TFL looks like we are never going to see this, but the concept and the premise sounds really cool. And I like what they're trying to do there with Apex Legends being this gaming hub for a whole heap of shooter-based experiences. I hope they continue to explore that and lean into that and build out this broader Titanfall and Apex universe, because there is some great characters, some great moments, and I think some great content there that could be farmed out to make some really cool experiences.
Yeah, Apex Legends has definitely developed the Titanfall universe and introduced us to all these other wonderful characters and other bits of lore within that universe. And the stories that they release usually with each announcement of a new character have been pretty brilliant and have always kind of made me curious more and more and more about this universe. So that they were kind of building everything out, much like that we see with Overwatch, where they develop these characters and backstories and this connecting universe. You kind of always want more, and you kind of sometimes it's great to kind of see it more laid out, like in one like linear line, so you can experience it all together. I think about the only good thing that because I would love more Titanfall content, but the positive that I'm taking away from this is that they've said that this wouldn't have been the title of Titanfall 3, which is I think what a lot of us Titanfall fans want.
I hope we get it.
I really do.
Hope we get it.
I miss PvP Titanfall. Just the experience of calling down your giant mech and crushing people, and then playing these wonderfully created stage sets where it had to take into consideration obviously human-sized characters playing in a PvP space, but then also these giant mechs walking around this space and gliding through this space and attacking. It was such a fun experience, and it was a little bit anxiety-inducing at times too. But if this cancellation puts more time for them maybe to focus on just doing a strict Titanfall 3, then that's the positive I'll take away from it. However, I am still sad that we're not seeing this kind of linked in universe of Titanfall and Apex kind of working together for a campaign, because it would have been brilliant. It would have been really great to see.
Yeah, and just that mentioning in there where you were saying the game itself, you'd be playing through this single player experience and meeting people from the Apex universe along the way, and they'd give you certain abilities or certain items or skill sets. So it'd be kind of cool to bump into various characters, and then they give you the abilities used to using in the Apex Legends Battle Royale game to sort of weave into the single player experience. But sadly, it looks like we'll never experience that. We'll just have to live on in the memories and some of the leaked art that's sort of been kicking around. But yeah, I'm holding out hope that we get a Titanfall 3, and I hope that off the success of Apex, Respawn have gotten some extra clout amongst EA where they're like, you know what, you can do more, you can do whatever you like off the back of Apex and Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor.
Yeah.
Maybe it sort of says, you've done these games for us, what would you like to make next? And hopefully they say, we'd love to do a Titanfall
3. Yeah, we can only hope.
God damn, we can only hope, because it's so good. Anyone that hasn't played Titanfall 2, I know we sort of periodically harp on how great Titanfall 2 is, or how great Titanfall is in general. Do yourselves a favor and go play those games, because it is so special, and such fond memories playing the shared multiplayer experience with friends, where you're rolling around and when you don't have your Titan, and you're just a little grunt soldier running around and running between the legs of giant mechs and then going in and out of buildings and fighting other enemies. It's such cool, varied gameplay, and playing that in a live multiplayer experience is some of my favorite multiplayer-based memories.
Also, the melee attack of being able to sneak behind someone and just absolutely snapping their neck. I know now that I'm saying this, it sounds a little bit sadistic, but I thought it was great. It was always really cool getting behind someone and getting the one up on them. So
it was very morbid, especially if you had the cloaking ability and you sort of stealth your way in and you watch their head just literally rotate 180 degrees
spin
in front
around
of you.
and say hi.
Yeah, it was super, super visceral, but really fun and super fast paced. So Titanfall 3, please, please, please come to consoles and PC in the future. But if you don't want to wait and wait and wait until Titanfall 3 makes its way into your hands, don't worry, because we got you all covered.
New releases and events.
All right, we're talking about releases dropping between February 6th through to February 12th. As far as new podcasts, outside of the Hungry Games episode 315 that you're listening to right now, we've got a new episode of More Than Hentai where myself and Mr. David Shack are tackling Psycho Pass, one of the best science fiction anime of all time, in my humble opinion. If you wanted to check out some new stuff making its way to the small screen and the streamers, don't worry, because there is a smattering of things, just like Dr. Pimple Popper Season 4. That show, I'm always morbidly curious about it, but then I'm also very repulsed every time I watch a scene in it because it is so...
I didn't know they made a show. I knew it was like a YouTube channel. I didn't know someone actually funded that.
Yeah, we're up to Season 4, Miss Hart. You got some catching up to do.
No.
It's so freaking gross. But anyone that likes all those weird wounds and medical-based procedures and just wants to feel uncomfortable, Dr. Pimple Popper got you covered. Another one that's coming out this week, Harley Quinn, a very problematic Valentine's Day special is coming out. And obviously, we're talking about the Harley Quinn animated universe that Kaylee Cuoco is fantastically portraying as Miss Harleen Quinzel there. Also got You is back for Season 4. So Season 4 Part 1 drops this week. This show, I don't know where they're going to take it in Season 4 because the stakes just keep getting raised higher and higher. And Joe just keeps doing all kinds of things that just make me feel uncomfortable, but he's back for another go around. So let's see what he gets up to in Season 4 of You, with Part 1 dropping this week. And the 26th season of South Park starts this week. 26 seasons of South Park.
Incredible. Like, thinking back, like, the fact that, like, I, like, remember when South Park started. Like, I remember the start of South Park and just seeing it continuously release and still have relevancy and still kind of not missing beats and social cues of a comedy. It's pretty spectacular. And like their dads, these, you know, fart, poop and all those jokes, like they're their dads and they're still in there writing this stuff, doing the voice work, incorporating their kids now into the show. And I just think it's so brilliant that like something that, you know, Mama Hart would tell me, like, can't watch. It's disgusting TV. It's immature and it's outlasted so much. So it's brilliant.
Yeah, it's impressive what old Trey Parker and Matt Stone have managed to do with this franchise, and it's still relevant. See, they got that absurdly expensive deal through Comedy Central that tied into dedicated TV series for the next, I think it was a 5-year deal for that. There was movies, there was games, there was all kinds of things. These two are just rolling around in more money than they already had. But yeah, it's crazy that crassness is still relevant and still funny today, but they do tackle a lot of current day topics and trends and do it really, really well. Like the writing team behind it are fantastic because it is super funny, even though it is super rude. It still manages to nail it tonally from at least my perspective.
No, I agree.
As far as if you want to get to the cinema, get yourself some popcorn, maybe a Choc Top, you can check out The Whale as well as Magic Mike's Last Dance. I can't believe there's another Magic Mike film.
I can't believe it either. And I can't believe like people are genuinely excited to see it.
I'm curious because Salma Hayek's in this one. And anytime she makes an appearance, I'm like, I'll watch something with you in it because you are a ageless, timeless beauty, and I still just cannot stop thinking about you in From Dusk Till Dawn.
That's the first thing I always think about. Second is Dogma.
Yes. Both fantastic films. Both very different films.
Very different films.
Very
also,
much worth your time.
Kind of similar in ways, but...
Yeah, similar. There's some beats there. And as far as games coming out this week, only 2 that are dropping between that sort of Feb 6th through to 12th sort of window. We've got Endling Extinction is Forever dropping on mobile, and then we've got Hogwarts Legacy coming out this week, dropping around the world on February 10th. So we'll see how that gets received and reviewed and covered from all the outlets and etc. But yeah, good variety there. Check out that Psycho Pass podcast there. Be sure to rate, review, subscribe that, as well as all the other podcasts amongst the 8-Bit family, Hungry Gamers, Spoilercast, Comedy Rewind, all those great shows. 8Crit, chuck some reviews on there because we'll have some new content dropping on there very soon. So yeah, be sure to rate, review, subscribe us, as well as all the other podcasts you listen to on the regular. those ratings and reviews help keep the emotional lights on in our hearts. But Miss Hart, I think it's time for us to shut the studio down for another week. Anything else you want to shout out or mention before we get on out of here?
No, I'm just going to keep on praising Hi-Fi Rush and definitely play it. It's on Game Pass, so what's to lose?
What have you got to lose, listeners? Hi-Fi Rush, one of the early contenders for Game of the Year, especially when it comes to Miss Ali Hart's list. But it brings us to the end of THG 315. Thanks as always for stopping on by. But until next time, 8-Bit Nation, much love.
And stay hungry.
You've been listening to The Hungry Gamers, one of many gaming and geek culture related podcasts from the 8-Bit Collective over on 8bit.net. Check out more episodes on your podcast service of choice. And while you're there, please be sure to rate and subscribe. Until next time, boys and girls, stay hungry.